Will be my tutorial for generative design in Revit 2021. So the first thing you're going to want to do is open Revit 2021 and then open up a new project. And I already have one made, and the one I made was just using the architectural template. So I created a few case studies already that I will quickly go over to show how to use the generative design process. So in Revit, there are three different studies that you can do with generative design. There's office layout, workspaces. There is maximizing window views from inside of a room, and then there's also there's also three massings that you can potentially do for some sort of design of buildings. So one of the first things to get started with is you'll want to have your project open and rooms created and at least a certain Revit family or element inside to get started with. So with starting with the office layout, I have a room created and one desk placed and a few windows. What you're going to want to do is go over to the Manage tab and then click on Create Study. And I already have it open, so I'll open it here and it opens a new window. But you will hit Create Study and then you'll click on Workspace Layout. And then here you will just like name your work space layout test, and then you will click and select model. The first thing you will do is select the room, and then you'll select the Revit family that you had put in that you'll be optimizing for the layout. So the test I will do for this is optimization, but there are different methods that you can do. There's also cross-product, randomize, and like this. So with optimize, it'll just optimize the best designs based on your variables and goals, but cross-product will mathematically figure out exact sort of numbers for it, I guess. And then randomize will randomly place them around. Like this is sort of a relative option where you can like choose a room that you've already created and it will generate designs like that. So choosing variables, for the desk and spacing between rows, I am going to keep them checked. And it's basically just saying how they're going to be arranged in the room, depending on rotation and their spacing. And then for goals, these are where you may refine your process and like what you're really looking for from your generative design. So you may want to have, for example, the average distance from the desk to the exits be minimal, because you want people to leave pretty fairly. Views outside, maybe you want to maximize that number of desks. Maybe you want to maximize it as well. We're not going to set any constraints, but this would be like further refining your generative design process to get what you want. So once you are finished selecting those, actually I think you might have to set one of them, which I'm going to do like number of desks, and we'll just say like minimum of 5, max of 10. Yeah, okay. What am I missing? Maybe we have to set all these constraints. Okay, so views to outside, I'll say like 2, max of like 5. Which is just to exits, 5 to 10 feet. Oh, that's the main. It's because I already. Okay. So now we generate. And then this process takes a long time, so I will show you some earlier tests that I've done. Never mind. I can't because it has to load through it all. But once it generates, it'll show all the different outcomes and permutations from the generative design process based on what we just did. And because I set a fair amount of constraints, it might not come up with a lot, but I'll show you an earlier test I've done that shows more constraints.
Oh, this won't end for like 20 minutes. I just want you to know that. We have to stop the recording. You can pause the recording.
Okay, so the results from this test, because there were such high constraints, it only produced 2 iterations. However, in an earlier test I've done, which basically had no constraints, it produced like a lot. So we can see from all these different iterations that the AI produced the test results with like angles to them, all like relating to maximizing the views from the windows, and they're all fairly close to the exits that I have illustrated. So that's for the first study. For the second study, we will look at maximizing the light in the room and the views from outside. So this is the second sort of room I created. It's a little bit more complex. So you will want to create study again, go to maximize window views, give it a name, and then for selecting in your model, you will want to select, and I just have a chair here, so I'll select the chair. You'll want to select all of your window elements. And then hit finish up in the upper left hand corner. It's kind of small. Select the room again. And then select your obstructions. And I just kind of have some architectural columns in here to make some obstructions. And then finish. And then again, you will want to set your variables, your goals for this. You can set your constraints. I'm just going to generate. And then this loading time will be another process again. Okay, so this is the outcome that it produced, or at least one of them. It's still loading more, but I'm going to show you an earlier test I did, which had the same constraints and variables set. Pretty much, I didn't set many so that we could see a lot of outcomes, and we can see that if we click on one, it shows like the light rays coming from the windows, the sort of sources and everything to the chair. We can see that the score, the outside score is what it's called, I guess, is about 50, which is pretty high. As we can see from other outcomes we have, it's like lower, like that one's 6. I guess those are about 50 as well, but we have like a 61, almost to 62. This chart down here will show you, like, depending on which outcome you click, it'll show you what parameters it's following. So like the bolder line shows the different parameters again that it's following. But yeah, that's pretty much window layout views. And the last one that I will do is the 3D 3-box massing. This one doesn't require you to have a model to base it off of. You can just hit create study, go to 3-box massing, name it something. And then you can set your boxes. You don't even need to have 3, but I'm gonna keep 3. Say I want more surface area and a lot of floor area, sure. No constraints again, I'm just gonna generate. Okay, so the loading for these does take quite a long time. So we're gonna move back to an earlier test again that I've done. This one was very similar. The only difference was that I actually had minimized the floor plan instead of maximized it. And we can see that it produced 8 pages of results. But yeah, there's quite a lot. And these can be very useful to people coming up with their first conceptual forms for buildings, whether they're architects or maybe they're even in the urban planning, urban design sector, and they're looking to see buildings, like how they would lay out in an urban form. So what we can see from the chart on the bottom, again, I'm going to address this. There's a lot more iterations, but there's also an interactive thing that you can do with it. So if you hover over some of these columns, we can see that if you click a point and drag it, it'll create like a range for the outputs. It'll show only the ones within it, and you can do that with like all these columns. And the I guess kind of cool part about this is that they also will slide around so that you can just like really fine tune what you want to show, what you want your outputs to be, and like see this one finally just produce 1. So if you wanted something within all 3 of these ranges, like, there you go. That's the best optimized generative design iteration that the AI produced for you. Let's see if this one's done yet. There's a couple in. It's not completely finished. As we can see, the little like 1 out of 10 means like the steps that it's taking until it's completely done. So it's still only 1/10 of the way loaded, but we can see that of the 3 designs it produced so far, yeah, that's what you can use. So that's all of these tests are then saved in your Explore Outcomes generative design panel, so that you can always come back to them, you can always look at them, you can also delete them later if you want to. But this is a really fast, efficient way for people to produce many different designs for complex design problems in a short amount of time. People that are short on time, short staffed, want to come up with as many different designs as they can. It really helps them think more about like what designs they have, because it can produce all the possible ones. Another cool thing about it is that the generative design like script within Revit will run in the background, so you can just like minimize it and continue working on your project, and it shouldn't disrupt workflow or do anything to stunt your work. That concludes the tutorial for how to use generative design, the newest feature in Revit 2021. It's also available in later ones, but you won't find it